Excellent. It's now 3 o'clock, so we can start this afternoon's meditation class. And as I always have to explain, in the room to my right, which is to your left, room between here and the reception area, that's where the class, the introduction to meditation, is being held by Peter Smith, really good man. And if you've done those classes and you're used to sitting in here, then welcome to the advanced class in meditation in this room. It's only an exaggeration. You don't have to be advanced. But it's nice if you want to learn the basics, that's next door. And this is the ongoing class in meditation. And so before I actually start with the guided meditation, and then be quiet and I teach one of you meditate at your best, that's when I usually say a few words about meditation. And what I want to say today is a common question. People say that when they do start meditating, they keep on thinking too much. Actually, even a little bit, to me, is too much. It's much more peaceful and beneficial to learn how to not pay too much attention on thinking, and instead just knowing. I'm not replacing my thoughts or trying to brainwash you, my thoughts with my thoughts for your thoughts. We just want to have some stillness and peace. And if you haven't noticed yet, that when we do the guided meditation on being aware of the parts of your body, part of the reason which I do that and find it successful is because if you are being aware of parts of your body, unless you are a doctor who is very advanced in all the language of the different feelings and sensations in the body, a lot of times when you look at parts of the body, you can't find a name to describe it. And you don't need a name to describe it. That's a wonderful thing about being aware of some parts of this world which are beyond names. We have not developed a vocabulary for it yet, which is one of the reasons why you may look at some special report which was done by doctors or lawyers, and even like the language is incomprehensible to us. And that's a good thing when we get to meditation, because we don't need to know the many different names for pain to realize that we're hurting. We don't need to always try and find a word to describe what we're experiencing. We can just experience it. And we know ourselves, just this is similar to this is similar to that. This is where we get our understanding and our own wisdom from. When we just go to names, it does make life very complicated. In your work, whatever your business is, you have many, many names. And those names are just a language of problems and difficulties and attempts to solve those difficulties. When you are peaceful, you don't have any names for what's happening, you just can experience them. Then life becomes much more easy, peaceful. For example, I don't know how you feel right now, but maybe how does your right knee feel right now? Just the right knee. And it's hard to give it a name. You just knee feeling. What this exercise does is not get you more aware of your body, but get you more able to be aware without thinking about it. We feel it, we know it, but we don't give it a name. And when we don't give it a name, you can actually see it much more deeply and more thoroughly. And not only that, as when you don't give things names, you find your mind doesn't go forward in connecting one idea, one name to another name, and then to another name, and then to another name. There is actually a word for that. It's called papancha. It's one of my favourite Pali words. It means conceptual proliferation. And I'm risking a bit of danger here, but I remember just checking out, in the old days, when I first started using computers, that was my favourite password, papancha, conceptual proliferation. I thought it was very apt. But when you're doing a awareness of your body, a scanning of your body, a lot of times you can't give things names. And things become so much more peaceful and easier to see. One of my own early practices was learning how to be able to see things without giving it a name. Because of my background in science, and especially astrophysics and subatomic particle physics, some of those names which we gave to things made it so hard to see, like the sky at night. Every time I looked, especially here in Australia, out in the forest, see the Milky Way. Why do we call it the Milky Way, I thought? What's milky about it? Especially if you're a vegan, that must be a very, very difficult thing to look at. It's only a silly joke, I'm sorry. But anyway, just to know all the names of those stars and those clusters, sometimes that wasn't a help at all. For years, that's how long it took me to kind of forget about those names and to be able to see the stars as you would see them at night. There's these beautiful lights in the sky without giving them a name. That made it much easier to enjoy them, to see their beauty, to be able to watch the stars at night without thinking about things. They calmed me. So I think I mentioned in the last couple of weeks to someone, it's the same why when I was young I enjoyed listening to classical music, because you had to listen to every note. And if I just missed one by talking to somebody or by thinking, the beauty disappeared. But when you were right with every note of music, then you could enjoy it thoroughly. That was one of the things which I enjoyed about it. You had to be silent, with no thoughts, to be able to enjoy thoroughly things like classical music. And I noticed in my life as a monk, there's so much more I can see when I'm quiet, after a deep meditation. You can come out and the world is just so clear. One of those reasons is you don't disturb it by thinking. After a while, you know that thinking can be helpful sometimes, but a lot of the times you're quiet, you're peaceful, you're still. And that was one of the reasons, one of those old stories which was told to me when I was a young monk in Thailand. Sometimes we would have to work really hard, really hard physically. And I remember complaining, I never became a monk to work. I became a monk to meditate and be still, get wise, not to be a labourer. And then one monk who saw me kind of complaining, he said to me, Brahmawangso, pushing a wheelbarrow is easy. Thinking about it is the hard part. And that was such a beautiful piece of wisdom. It wasn't Ajahn Chah who said this. It was another monk, and I really respect him for that. Whatever you do in your life, doing it is easy. Thinking about it is the hard part. So when you learn how to not think about meditation, or think about the problems of your future, or the things you have to do later on, or the great mess you've got yourself into right now, don't just think about it. doing the work is much easier than thinking about it. So by learning how to not give value to thinking, but give value to silence, life becomes so much more enjoyable, easy, peaceful. Just like when you go to a beautiful part of nature, and there are many beautiful parts of nature over where I live in Serpentine. You go to some of these hills, you got wonderful views over the Indian Ocean. It's a long way away, but we're high up. On a clear day you can see for miles. Yeah. And it's so gorgeous there. You can just go and see a little valley in the monastery. There's some places in that monastery which are so peaceful and beautiful. Ever since I first went there, I made a point of telling everybody that I don't want ever to build any structures in this place. It's not the whole of Bodhinyana Monastery, it's just a little part of it. I want to keep that builder-free. It has remained like that for the last 40 years or more. It's so beautiful. It has a good atmosphere down there. I want to keep it that way. So you can go down there and you get quiet. It's so beautiful. The peace can overcome you. Overcome you means, why think? You got this beautiful answer to problems just by being here. You don't want to spoil it by thinking any concepts. And after a while, you get used to silence. You value it. I know in one of the suttas, the Buddha once said, actually not once, it was actually many times, he said, when you've meditated a lot, and you're sitting down, and you have the opportunity, it's like the mind recognizes the value of silence, and it leaps towards it. If you can just see it coming, then you don't stop it. It stops you. And you enjoy the beautiful silence in the mind. And after a while that enhances your meditation enormously. One of the other tricks to enjoying silence, to making it easy for you to enjoy silence, and I have mentioned this in other talks I've given here recently. One of those tricks is when you first come in to a hall like this. What do you perceive when you first come in here? What grabs your attention? To many of us, what grabs your attention is the people who are here. If you've only been here a few times, about where the cushions are, where the seats are, where the exits are. You notice the things in this room. After a while, you don't notice the things in this room. You notice the space between those things. Not just where people are, whether it's full or whether it's empty. You notice just how much space there is between people, and how we're all embraced by this, what I call the emptiness in this room. And that's so much more interesting. If anybody has this psychological feeling that they're alone and they're separated from others, they find they can't connect. You are connected. You're connected by the space which unites us all, which joins us together. It's just looking at this world in just a slightly different perspective. Not thinking this space separates us, but is what joins us. And when you start to notice the space between things, that's always the empty part. The things themselves are where the noise is. Between us, just wonderful silence, which we don't need to change, to mend, to improve, to do anything with. Which means that we can relax and rest. And that's a beautiful thing about the silence, or looking at spaces. They're already perfect. They don't need any changes. We can leave them alone, become peaceful and rest. So those are little ways of encouraging the silence in the mind. You don't do this because you're told to, or you're trying to, you're forced to. Soon the silence becomes so beautiful, so attractive, so joyful. The mind inclines to silence. Sometimes it's when you were in school. That's where, first of all, I remember sometimes a teacher asked me, "What do you think about that?" I said, "Nothing." And I got punished for that. I could have been a Buddhist much earlier in my life if I had teachers who were a bit wiser. You don't have to think about things to be smart. You know things, you feel things. That's where intelligence and compassion and understanding come from. Okay, I've talked too much, now we can actually start the meditation. So, if you aren't comfortable yet, please take this opportunity to fidget, to adjust your body, to have a glass of water if you need one. Here's to your peace. And then we close our eyes. If you do want to have a peek every now and again, fine, but it's kind of nothing happening outside. It's much more enjoyable and effective to keep the eyes closed and keep the attention first of all on the body scan. I kind of love doing this. How are my toes? So I connect with my toes again. How are you, toes? Is there anything I can do to make you more comfortable? As you all know, it's what I call kindfulness. When I add the kindness, the mindfulness is more effective in developing this peaceful feeling throughout the whole body. And it makes the process joyful. I enjoy the meditation. So I put kindness into it. Even at first, I can't feel the toes very well. I will wiggle them. So I love starting with the toes. You can wiggle them and you can feel them. You made that connection, a clear connection between your brain and the toes. And you can check that everything is okay down there. And it's not just checking that everything is okay, it's not just getting rid of the problems, if there are any there. It's doing more than that. It's creating this extra comfortable feeling there, more comfortable than usual. That's better. And when my toes are happy, I go to the rest of my feet. I'm sitting in front of this little table. That's it. Sometimes I have to move the table to take any pressure of the wood against my feet. Just a little move of that table, and my feet are so comfy now. And then I keep my attention sweeping up my feet, just going through all parts of them, not leaving them till they're really, really, really comfortable. It's caring. But also whatever feelings I can perceive, I don't give them names. I keep things so simple. In simplicity, it doesn't generate chains of thought. I'm experiencing feelings, not thoughts. I go to my ankles, just I'm passing up my body. I can feel the ankles. I don't just pass over them, say they're okay, and don't even bother to check them thoroughly. My senses are totally focused on ankles and nothing else. Because I'm kind to them, I find that's what relaxes them. It takes them to a deeper level of ease. I like the word ease, because ease means no effort. It's happy there by itself. And in the quietness, I've got nothing disturbing, so I can appreciate these feelings in the body much easier, more completely. As I move my awareness up from the ankles, up through the calves, and my lower legs. And as I move that experience, that awareness upwards, I can notice how the kindness is what relaxes those muscles. This is where I learn just how to relax, because the mindfulness shows me things are getting easier down there. But it also shows me what kindness actually is. Many people, they want to be kind, but they don't know how. They don't know what it does to the body. Now you're finding out through your direct experience, not through thoughts and names and theories, but through direct experience. And eventually I get to my knees. I can recognize the feelings there. The feelings in my knees are always different than the feelings in my elbows, say. And I know how to make them comfortable, at peace, at ease. This kindness just is a wonderful gift to my own knees. It makes them feel good. It relaxes them. Brings them to a deeper sense of health. Go past my knees, up to my thighs. As I do this loving kindness sweeping all up the lower part of my body. And sometimes I get some strange sensations. So you just stay a bit longer there until they relax. You get this beautiful state of ease where nothing needs to be fixed or changed. It feels peaceful, feels comfortable. Sometimes it's a deeper state of ease than you've experienced before. Get to my buttocks. And you feel the pressure of the weight of the body pressed against the cushion. It could be the seat of the chair if you're sitting on a chair. Just notice how it feels, making sure there's no folds of cloth biting into the flesh of the buttocks. So soon that feeling can disappear. You're relaxing everything. And I get to my waist. And I like just to stretch, to move slightly, to make sure that that waist is at a certain level of comfort where I don't have to move. You adjust it, it's comfortable, and the body can stay there sometimes for hours without needing to move. And go up my back. I like going up my back at this time. Do a little bit of stretch to make sure the back feels comfortable. That's just me. If you like to lean back on your chair and can maintain that position easily for a long time, fine. Some people like to move forward, some move back. Just ask your body what feels the best for you and experiment. Explore. Now go to the base of my torso and then sweep the attention up slowly. Usually go through the digestive tract first of all. I had a cup of tea before I came in here. You can kind of feel that. Latest addition to my digestive tract. If there's any tightness in our digestive tract, which surprisingly I've perceived in my own tract right now, I'll stay with it. Be kind to it. And it kind of softens. When I get up to my stomach, I am kind to that too. And upwards to the lungs. There's many respiratory diseases in today's world. I never caught any. Often I think that's because I'm aware of my lungs and kind to them. I can relax them. It makes them energized and strong. They go up from my lungs to my heart region. Just like wishing it well. And that works. It makes things relax, takes away anxiety or some anxiety, and creates a sense of peace in that area, which you can feel. Again, mindfulness allows you to see what's actually working, what doesn't for you. It's how you learn your own emphasis in this meditation. And then I go upwards and get to my shoulders. Relax those. I can feel my shoulders, the muscles. And they're quite loose this afternoon. If they weren't loose, I would spend more time with them to relax them deeper. After a while you learn how to relax any part of your body. And you go down from the shoulders, down the arms. It's kind of neat. My upper arms, I hardly ever spend any time with them, but today, just being aware and wishing them well, feeling them, spending time with them. And then they relax. Past my elbows and forearms, wrists and hands and fingers, relaxing every part of my body. With my fingers there's so many nerve endings there. They're easy to contact, to feel. And how I relax them is asking them, how do you feel? You got a friend or like a family member you love? It's no beautiful thing to do, not just ask them or assume you know what they need, but ask them, how can I really assist you? How can I be kind to you? And then once the hands are relaxed and at peace, go back up to my shoulders again, and my neck on top of those shoulders. I always like to ease the feeling in the neck by looking at the position of the head. You may have heard me say on question time last night, one of the things which I do is to move the head slightly backwards. Only slightly. And it means that any sloth and torpor, any tiredness is reduced slightly. And lastly I go to the muscles in the front of my face. Make sure all the muscles around the eyes and the mouth and the nose are all at ease. There's no part of them which is being stretched or squashed. All parts of them are loose, relaxed and open. How does that feel? Feels good. I can't give it any other description. I want to take away all these names and thoughts. Just know that the face is nicely relaxed. And that means many emotions have come down to a state of peace. And I enjoy that for a moment. The The feeling of relaxation is pleasurable. And I know that the mind, however I try and train it, will always incline towards the pleasurable, the joyful. That's why I let it. Just indulge in the pleasure of a relaxed body. When I started doing that, I realized there's nothing to be ashamed of. My body now gets even more relaxed. It's easier to get relaxed next time. And that really helps the meditation. And I check my mind and there's hardly any thoughts going on in it. I'm just enjoying being aware, silently aware, of the pleasant feeling of bodily relaxation. And now to take it deeper, I notice this quality which is there, called peace. It's the nature of the mind. When I'm meditating, how peaceful am I? How peaceful are you? And the important reflection, what makes you more peaceful? What irritates you? Past and future give you more work to do. The present is where you find freedom. So right now I'm just here. No need to think. No need to say anything. I learned just how to be here. And for me, this just being here is so pleasant. I don't need to think. I don't have to decide what am I going to do next. Right now there is no next. It's only this calm, peaceful moment which I'm going to enjoy. I will now stop speaking and be peaceful. It's getting close now to the end of the meditation. How do you feel? What worked for you? What benefits do you feel? I'm now going to attempt to make the gong chime. That's better. To end the meditation. At the end of the meditation, usually open the floor for any questions about the meditation, and also the online questions first. Thank you. The first question: how does one stop excessive sweating, high heart rate and nervousness? I know I can answer that first question. You turn on the aircon and lower the temperature. I was born in London. And I still, if I'm in my own room and it's warm like it is this afternoon, I'd always turn on the aircon and make it cooler for me. If I have no control of the external temperature, then sometimes you can imagine, it's weird, you can imagine sort of a cool area. Some of the times I meditate, it's been very cold, but my body is used to that. And just by visualizing being in a cold environment, you can notice your body temperature decrease. But obviously this is something else. Excessive sweating, high heart rate and nervousness. For the nervousness, I always find that is just thinking of the future and everything which might go wrong. One beautiful way of overcoming that is by, if you are going to think of the future, think of all the things which might go right, all the things which are so uncertain that all the things which you're worried about are unlikely to happen. You can get peaceful. You come back into this moment. This is where I say being kind to the future. It's being so kind. You don't look at all the things which are faulty, but all the things which are kind of okay, which are often more likely. I know that sometimes people tell me, but what if something happened? What if it was late? What if it didn't work? What if... And they always follow the what-ifs by something which is negative. I like to follow all the what-ifs by something positive, until I find out that what if is a stupid question. So instead of thinking what if, what's happening now, and make this moment nice and peaceful. It's an old poem to grant oneself a moment of peace. You kind of give that as a gift to yourself. Instead of worrying about things, give yourself the gift that you're anxious, high heart rate. Thank you for visiting me. High heart rate, nervousness. Make peace with this moment. Give yourself that opportunity to perceive this peaceful. And nervousness, the nervousness soon disappears. Don't be nervous about being nervous. Sometimes it can be part of life. Get to know it, get to understand it. It's one of those sayings which I remember first reading in an unlikely book. I don't know if I should have been reading it anyway. It was The Chinese Art of War. I'm not an aggressive, violent person. But in there it had a saying, to know the enemy, know thyself. 1,000 battles fought, 1,000 battles won. But it's the one because of your understanding and your appreciation of what's going on, the knowledge. So if you're having an attack of nervousness, see if you can just, instead of trying to get rid of the nervousness, explore it. What does it feel like? How does it arise? Is it really that unpleasant? Then after a while, you get to know it. And the more you get to know it, the more power you have over it. The more it doesn't bother you, and you can even let it go. Jan, dear Venerable, I think it would be very inspiring to see a monk meditating in deep samadhi. Could you arrange that and put on your YouTube? With metta, Jan from Poland. You know, once after Ajahn Chah got very sick and had to be in his basically hospital room, somebody made a Madame Tussauds wax figure of him. Remember, he put that in the normal place he used to sit when he was healthy, under his hut. I remember many people visiting, and they did not know it was just a wax figure of Ajahn Chah. It wasn't a real Ajahn Chah. And so a lot of them were so impressed. They saw this figure sitting quietly. He looked so much like a human being. And they came out afterwards and said, wow, that's so inspiring. That monk really knows how to sit meditation. So if you want that in Poland, you can commission a wax figure of one of the monks and put it up there, and they can sit perfectly still for days. But of course, that's kind of a funny take on the answer to that question. If you do put, like a monk or a nun, on display like that, a lot of people would actually be touching it, trying to prove that it's not real. And that is one of the difficulties. The only way you know the reality of those states is by experiencing them for yourselves. And that can be done. It would be inspiring to see a monk meditating in deep samadhi. Sometimes that happens. But sometimes that if you see them, what do you do next? It's one of my problems, and most senior monks' problems. If you start to get a nice deep samadhi when you're teaching, then it's kind of my promise to give a talk or to do this and to do that. And if I forget that promise and just enter a deep samadhi state, a lot of times we feel we're letting you down. Some people would appreciate it, but others would not. They would not know what to do, and that is why, the way I was taught, if ever you get the feeling that you're peaceful and you may very easily enter a deep meditation. What do? Is you say, I have to come out by, say, 5 o'clock. I have to come out by 5 p.m. I have to come out by 5 p.m. You program your mindfulness in such a way that when it gets to the 5 p.m. exit time, which you programmed in, you come out. So anyway, it's an interesting question, but thank you. Dear Ajahn, you said you are experiencing feelings, not thoughts. What if we are feeling sad in meditation, and with that, sad thoughts also appear? How do we carry on? Don't feeling and thought work together? They don't always work together. One can influence the other. One can create the other. But you can just have the feeling without thoughts. With the thoughts, again, it's giving it names, assessing it, measuring it. And this is one of the reasons why when thought kinds of disappears and vanishes, that's when your feeling becomes not a measurement anymore. Many years ago I gave this simile. Actually, somebody asked me, what do you think, Ajahn Brahm? You were a scientist, of Lord Kelvin's statement, in order to control nature and basically start what was known as the Industrial Revolution. Lord Kelvin was a scientist and founded the Royal Society in UK a few hundred years ago. What if we don't measure things? When you don't measure things, you can't control them. They're at peace. And one of the ways we measure them is by thinking about them. Have you ever known, what do people think about you? Is that accurate? Remember the end of one rains retreat, just as an experiment. Sat down with a fellow monk, he was also English, and we said, honestly, what do you think about me? And I said what I thought about him, he said what I thought about me. What I said I thought about him, he said, that's weird, and that's not what I thought you thought about me. And when he told me what he thought about me, I said, that's not what I thought you thought about me. Whatever we thought about was totally sort of out of context, different. Which one was right? Both were wrong. It's not worth thinking about somebody else. Enjoy their company instead. My dear Ajahn, how do I address wispy thoughts coming into my mind during meditation, and also sometimes flashes of people's faces? Thank you. If it's wispy thoughts come in, they came in somehow, so let them out the same way. Don't celebrate them. Don't give them value. If you give them value, not only will they stay, but they will create more thoughts. Thoughts are like rabbits. They reproduce. And you start maybe with a wispy thought, and it soon becomes a whole population of so many thoughts. And you see people's faces. Whose? If it's people you don't know, then just discard them. This is not the time. I'm not quite sure why you see people's faces. Are they beautiful people or ugly people? Just all faces. That's not what a person is, just their face. So see if you can not give it any importance and not measuring a person by how they look, by their face. See if you can, by taking away importance and value, the thing just disappears. And instead, just value peace and silence much, much, much more. I don't know if that worked for you, but anyway, that's the answers I can give. So, any questions from the floor? Any questions from the chairs? Yes.
And it is very fortunate that we are able to encounter, to know meditation and to practice. And we also know our limitation, that sometimes we may not be able to complete the task by the end of our life. You may say that we may be having too much thinking, but I'm just wondering whether sometimes it is appropriate for us to have thoughts of continuing our practice in a better realms other than the human realms, because we don't need to earn a livelihood, we don't need to work hard for our keep or whatnot in order to support our practice. I'm not sure we have any thoughts and comments about that.
Surprisingly, I don't have any thoughts about that. Have you not been listening to the talk? I don't have any thoughts about that. I have feelings about it. One of the feelings is, it's not about continuing the practice or getting somewhere. That's why many people, when you have a goal, some place you want to get to, that's when it becomes impossible to reach that goal. Thinking too much. And instead, the people get their best meditation experiences when they basically give up. They tried so hard trying to reach somewhere, and then it doesn't work. So they stop. To make that clear, is one of my similes is of the donkey catching the carrots. Like, this is Australia. Sometimes if I say this over in Malaysia, I mention the durian. So you're Malaysian, you told me, yeah, let's use the durian simile. A donkey was trying to catch, or trying to pull the cart, and its owner just realized how stubborn that donkey was. So he got a stick and trying to hit the donkey, and the donkey didn't move at all. That's where in English we have a phrase, as stubborn as a donkey. And so instead of using the stick to hit that poor donkey, the wise person ties that stick to the donkey's neck. On the end of the stick they put a string, and on the end of the string, if it's the Malaysian donkey, they put a durian, a little piece of durian, so they can smell it. And it's right in front of them, about 2 foot in front of the donkey's mouth. And the donkey can see it, smell it. It's just right there, right in front, so close. What does the donkey do? It moves forward to try and catch the durian. But when it moves forward, the string moves forward, the stick moves forward, the string moves forward, and the durian moves forward. It's always out of reach. No matter how fast that donkey runs, still that durian is 2 foot in front of it. But how that durian is caught is the donkey's been running after that durian all its life, running really fast. And so the durian is still 2 foot in front. But then the Buddhist donkey knows how to stop. It puts on the brakes and just comes to a halt. And this is one of the reasons why people just don't have that patience and that understanding. They're always doing something, thinking about something, planning something. But this donkey just stops. What happens to the durian? It goes further away, more distant than it's ever been before, 4 foot in front of the donkey's mouth. It's never been that far away. But the donkey is still and confident, doesn't do anything, doesn't think what to do next, doesn't think this is wrong, just stops thinking. And then he sees what he never expected. The durian starts swinging towards the donkey. And soon it's its usual place, 2 foot in front of the donkey's mouth. But it keeps on moving closer towards the donkey. And just the last thing which the donkey has to do, not think, but do, is when that durian is really close, the donkey always has to remember, durian, the door of my mouth is open to you. Otherwise it bounces off the donkey's big teeth. That's how you become enlightened. If you think about it, it's impossible. It's one of the problems. That's one of the reasons, one of Ajahn Chah's great stories, which I keep repeating these. He said his monastery in Thailand was a mango orchard. Oh yeah, planted by the Buddha. Oh crikey, what are we doing now? The Buddha never visited Thailand. I know some Thais even have asked me, but there's places where they said the Buddha left his footprint. Really? And Sri Lanka too? Really? That's very dubious. But anyhow, sort of the Buddha planting mango trees in the northeast of Thailand, and he said those mango trees are still there, and they're full of ripe mango fruit right now, thousands of them, and they're all ripe, ready for eating. But he said you can't reach those mangoes on the tree. They're too high. If you get a ladder, you can't reach them. If you throw things up at them or shake those mango trees, those mangoes will not fall. In these days, if you get a helicopter or a drone or a cherry picker, you won't be able to reach those mangoes. There's only one way to get those ripe mangoes which have been planted by the Buddha, right here in this monastery, he said. And that is to sit perfectly still underneath a mango tree. Hold out your hand and a mango will fall straight away. If you think about that, that is totally crazy, impossible. That's enough for you to go and think, I should go and find another monastery somewhere. That's what I thought when I first heard it, impossible. That's what I thought. It's only years later you find out what a beautiful simile that is. Just like the donkey. Runs after it, never catch it. Stands still. The momentum of that carrot or durian makes it go further away and then comes straight towards you. That's what happens with the mangoes in the forest. You're perfectly still, but the point is you have to be perfectly still. You don't say, you put your hand out and then, I'm still. When's that mango going to fall? That's not being still. That's thinking and planning and expecting. And we said many times, the deep meditations and enlightenment, all that stuff, it happens when you don't expect anything. You're not expecting. It's also why just in many meditation retreats, it's when the last meditation which people do at these meditation retreats, when they give up, when they don't expect anything, that's when things happen. That's like, if you don't believe me, try that. Sit down and don't expect anything. And then afterwards you say, I did that, it didn't work. What do you mean it didn't work? You expected it. Oh yeah. So the lovely story, which is in these stories, is good old Venerable Ananda, the Buddha's disciple. It was his disciple, but his attendant for 25 years. Venerable Ananda was looking after the Buddha. 25 years, he's watching all these other monks and nuns come up and say how they were enlightened. 25 years, he witnessed so many people becoming enlightened, but not him. Oh, he had so close access to the Buddha, and he still wasn't fully enlightened. And then after the Buddha passed away, all the senior monks had this big meeting. They wanted to collect all the teachings of what the Buddha actually said and learn them and recite them and make sure they had a good understanding of what the Buddha actually said. And 500 people went to this meeting. 499 of them were fully enlightened. Only one was not, and that was Ananda. And I often ask people, have some sympathy for Venerable Ananda. What would you feel? What would you feel if I said today's meditation class was so amazing that every one of you became fully enlightened? Every one of you, except you. That's unfair. No. That's how Alakananda would feel. So, the evening before the meeting, he said, okay, I'm not going to be the one who stands out, the only unenlightened monk in this meeting. So he meditated all night, gave it everything he had, meditated and meditated and meditated. And when the dawn came up, he wasn't enlightened at all. He got nowhere. So he thought, oh, what a waste of time. So he decided the meeting could be another couple of hours. Still time to have a nap. And that's when he went to his room, he went to lay down, and just as his head hit the pillow, that's when he became the 500th Arhat, fully enlightened. That's a standard story. I don't make that up. Why? He'd been trying to chase that durian or mango, whatever he liked, chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing it. He wasn't getting close to it, so he stopped. He gave up. And the mango whoosh all the way over there and whoosh all the way back again so quickly. That's how things happen. That's how to get the mangoes from the mango tree from the Buddha. Sit perfectly still, give up, let go. You know, that's a very nice story which I give, and people on retreats really love that. Because I explain to them, look, if you're really tired, go and try the Ananda method of meditation. Go to bed. And I add, you know, you have to practice that a lot to get the hang of it. So they're always going to take a nap. It hasn't worked yet, I'll keep on trying. That's not just a joke, many times I've seen that work. Okay? I've gone way over time and I don't have time. It says 4:30 now, I apologize. We're speaking too much again. So now I'm going to bow 3 times and then we can finish the session.